Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this out there on the World Wide Web. This is Jeremy Geenan for SYS-CON TV. I'm here at 13th Cloud Expo, Silicon Valley. As is Brad Johnson. Welcome from SOASTA, Brad.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Now, SOASTA, we always make extra special time for because you guys go back to the very first Cloud Expo. Were you aware of that?
I was very aware of that. I actually, I came to that
I didn't mean that to be patronizing. Oh my God, I missed a chance. As you are aware, SOASTA was right there from the get-go.
The birth of the cloud. We were there, right? Absolutely.
Now, that allows me then to ask you, we had our reasons for thinking this was going to be something big. You had a long history before that. Can you remember what the tipping points were internally that made Tom Lunabass and the gang go, oh no, we need to be betting on cloud?
Absolutely. I've personally been in the testing business a long time, and the entire market knew for a long time that in order to test a site, a website, or even an internal site at scale required a lot of hardware. And so there were companies that sold lots of testing software licenses and then didn't really talk too much about how much hardware was required. And so many companies in the industry realized that they weren't testing adequately. And Tom and the founding team was actually very aware of that from previous experiences where they weren't able to test at a level that they wanted to make their customers feel secure that their sites were ready. So SOASTA was founded a little bit before the cloud, and when the cloud came, that was a pivot point, right? Because it was, wait a minute, this is exactly what all of the load testing market has waited for. Lots of servers for an hour and a half and then turn them off. And so it made it completely available to everyone at a much more, obviously a scalable options plus affordable because of the cloud, and they could do it more and more frequently. So it really solved a big problem.
You have to kind of wonder, don't you, back in that day, how it was that all those companies, who we will not name and shame, were able basically to sell a product that did partial testing, a bit like being, almost safe from pregnancy. It's very, very odd that they could get away with it, but what an opportunity for you guys.
Indeed, and you know what, it's interesting because in the days when those companies grew up, and more than a decade's passed since these guys were actually doing this, a large set of users on a single system at the same time might be 50 or 100, right? Whoa, maybe 1,000. The internet and mobile specifically has changed the perspective of what everyone has of what is a big app.
Yeah.
A big app is now healthcare.gov with hundreds of thousands of users at the same time, right? And so
look where that got us.
Exactly, and there's so much opportunity. That's what
I've seen all that tweeting from SOASTA and Cloud Test saying we could have helped you with that, Obama.
Indeed, you can't help. I mean, you can't fault us for that, right?
It's certainly a golden opportunity, and you were shameless to exploit it. No, it was very, very good. So looking forward, let's just back up. So SOASTA has got Cloud Test, has got this amazing traction. Your CEO spends more time in China, to my certain knowledge, than most Chinese people, and still doesn't speak Chinese because I quizzed him on this yesterday, so he doesn't seem to need that, which suggests to me, oh my God, that software must be good, because it's the language of SOASTA that's driving the product adoption.
Yeah, it's the market need, right? And so everybody understands that there's no end to how we're going to leverage the internet. There's no end to how large mobile will be, how many endpoints there will be, and so validating our applications and the systems that support what will be billions of users of users. It comes to the forefront of every IT director, of every engineering VP, of every CIO, of every CEO.
So I gave this example this morning, and I think it's in the public domain. Otherwise, I'll probably get suspended. But Verizon executive mentioned to me that they really are going all in on cloud. Well, we know that because they bought Terramark. But his point was they're going so spectacularly all in that what they'll be able to do, will explode your mind. And then they themselves go, and I'm sorry, Jim, if I'm revealing, secret source or whatever, but of course, given that everybody's signed SLAs both ways, we can't go, we'll reduce latency in New Zealand and Australia and then not deliver. So when you're asking me, Jeremy, I was saying, when are you going to roll it out? He says, dude, we'll roll it out when we've checked it works, which is a really honest answer.
Yeah, it is an honest answer, and it's a good answer. It's a good answer for SOASTA, of course, but
Well, it is if you go and supply the testing.
Right. Large public failures can't, they've been going on and on and on for so many years now, and they get larger, they get more public. People are beginning to get that message that, we really need to think about this before, a month or a week or a day before, the event hits. And so one thing that we've definitely seen is the leveraging of cloud for, development earlier. People are actually thinking about standing up large environments, running tests against them long before they actually go live. And so, as we talk about DevOps and we talk about kind of what I would call the resurgence of Agile, we're seeing people think much earlier about the performance of their apps and the end user experience of their of the users of their apps way back in development. And this is actually new. This is engineers don't typically think too much about what their pieces of code are going to do when 100,000 users are on the same system. They are now, because guess what? There's a lot of high visibility and public failure that's trickling down into how we actually begin to build software development.
Can I ask Brad a really silly question to end with? I'm sure you'll think it's silly, but this is my layman's hat that works on slightly. You zig and I zag, and I'm thinking about this. So I'm a company CEO. My question was going to be around, can cloud testing, the adoption thereof, be driven from upstairs as well as downstairs? And here's my analogy. The CEO says, we're going to have a fantastic bonding experience. Let's go and do that thing where they do the hot balloons over the Sahara. Let's take all our top executives. Actually, let's take all our top shareholders. Oh my God, let's take everybody in our ecosystem and float them above the Sahara and have the logos on the balloons, put it on YouTube. It's a thing of beauty. Unless everything drops out of the sky, we kill all the shareholders, all our chief executives, flames, horror, all filmed live. Oh my God. So a CEO has got some sense of caution in most circumstances. How, in the name of goodness, can we get in a situation where CEOs are saying, and our testing story is, and pointing fingers?
Yeah, I think it's an issue in delegation. It really has been for a long, long time. Again, I've been in this industry a while, and if you said testing, that the request or the interest would be driven down to someone who does testing. Right, but I think
it's so self-evident. We must have tested it. I mean, we're taking our board members up in hot air balloons. I mean, someone must have thought of testing it. Oh, wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're seeing more interest, from CMOs who are planning large marketing events. Good. We're seeing more interest from.
They do not want you to fail because they will lose money and market share.
Right, and they have larger budgets in many cases than sometimes in IT where QA lands. Right, but I really have faith, and we see that many of our relationships, customer relationships, are driven by C-level and C-1 because they are understanding that we might have a success disaster is one thing I like to call it, because people plan for a certain level of continuous usage on their site, but they don't think about, we had a great example the other day of somebody hired a very prominent new executive that everyone knew, and my goodness, all of a sudden they've got 3x the amount of traffic on their site, and it happens every day. So I think the more often this happens, the more people realize that they're using shared infrastructure for their both their websites and their backend systems, or they're potentially using cloud. They want to think about, well, what if we do go to 2 times or 3 times the amount of expected traffic? And they go, well, what can we do? And there's thankfully good options for them to come in and even at the last minute have that system end-to-end validated by certain customers or certain.
So let's end with a call to action then. If you're the one, you know who you are. If you're that one Super Bowl advertiser who used all your cash on getting the Super Bowl ad and forgot to send an email to Brad Johnson at SOASTA Inc. and say, dude, we're hoping for like 100 times more traffic than we've ever had before, but apparently you've got to test for that. Can you help? He's the guy to go to, don't you think?
I do think so.
And we will not name and shame you on SYS-CON TV until June, when we have 14th Cloud Expo, and then all bets are off. Thank you so much, Brad, for joining us, and thank you for following along out there on the World Wide Web.